What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today, and the road to predict all 136 FBS level college football teams this summer now takes us back to the Fun Belt. We're in Conway, South Carolina, just outside of Myrtle Beach, where the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers are up next for 2025 predictions. My name is Nate Pope, otherwise known as Tailgate Nate. Thank you all so much for clicking on this video and for helping to support the channel. If you want to support the channel even further, do what it says below me, hit that subscribe button, and while you're at it, you might as well ring the bell. Turning on notifications will ensure that you don't miss an upload during prediction season, and especially not one for your favorite team. I am a sports media graduate delving into the professional world of the industry, and if all of you want to see the cool stuff I get to do while still being up to date on what goes on this very YouTube channel, then please give me a follow on Twitter and Instagram. The handle is at TailgateNate29, and feel free to even send me an email at tailgatenate29@gmail.com. I want to thank you all so much for supporting and interacting with me and the channel in whatever way you may be doing so. And now, with all that said and done and out of the way, let's talk about Tim Beck and the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, a team that probably is going to sit right around that 500 mark, kind of where they've been throughout the Tim Beck era. This is not a program that I think right now has the expectation level that they did under Jamie Chadwell. However, I think you could see some things start to rise up this coming season if everything fits into place. But there are a lot of pieces they're going to have to try to fill in for. And by the way, you're ever in the area of Conway, South Carolina, free concessions at every Chanticleer home game this year. No catch, no fees, no nothing. Free concessions. I might be making a trip to Conway. How do we do preview predictions here on the channel? Well, we are going to go through a roster overview where the offense going to be over here to the left and the defense going to be over here to the right. At the end of the video, we're going to go through the Chanticleer football schedule. I'll give it a game-by-game preview and prediction, and this video overall is here to tell all of you exactly what I think about the Chanticleers here in 2025. But before we do get started, bam, right down below me, returning production numbers. They're according to ESPN, and they factor in portal additions only up to a certain, very small percentage. Right down below that, your recruiting and transfer portal ranks for the class of 2025 are according to 24/7 Sports. Drew Hollingshead, or Hollingshead, however you pronounce the last name. I apologize to Drew. One of the two is correct, but he is your offensive coordinator this year. And when you take a look at the quarterback position, well, it's going to be revamped this season. Ethan Vasco, the primary starter last year, has gone and entered the transfer portal. He is going now over to Liberty. Might be the starting quarterback with the Flames, and former Chanticleer head coach Jamie Chadwell. 2,120 yards, 14 touchdowns, 8 interceptions on around 55% completion percentage. And then Noah Kim has entered the transfer portal as well. He is now with Eastern Michigan, going back to the state of Michigan when he started his collegiate career with Michigan State. Just 333 yards, but 4 touchdowns and a pick for him last year. He's going to be in his first primary starting role over there with the Eagles as a grad transfer. So, okay, who do you bring in now, or who comes back? Well, it is going to be the likes of who you bring in. MJ Morris is a guy that is transferring over from Maryland, and MJ Morris last year, just 350 yards, 5 touchdowns, 5 picks, had his most productive season in 2023, 719 yards, 7 touchdowns, 5 picks, but you could say his overall best season was 2022, 648 yards, 7 touchdowns, and just 1 interception, and saw the highest completion percentage he's had throughout his career. So the upside is there with MJ Morris, a guy that I think is going to be your starting quarterback, but not without a fight. From San Jose State transfer Emmett Brown, 1,621 yards, 16 touchdowns, 5 interceptions for the Spartans last year. And this is the guy that is also coming over. He saw time at, I believe, yes, Washington State. I was going to say Washington, but Washington State. Yep, there you go. He saw some Power 4 time there with the Cougars. Didn't really play a whole lot there with Washington State, but played a ton last year with San Jose State as Walker Agette was battling some injuries, and you really got to see what Emmett Brown was made of. Again, if I had to pick a guy now, I probably would pick MJ Morris, just because I think he shows a little bit higher upside than Emmett Brown. That's in my personal opinion. If you're a guy that likes Emmett Brown more than MJ Morris, I wouldn't argue with you. I can definitely see the case. I think either of them are going to be pretty solid starting quarterbacks here in Conway, but I think MJ Morris is going to edge him out. And I think MJ Morris has got that lead in the quarterback room right now. However, that very quickly can change. And honestly, it would surprise me if we don't see both quarterbacks play this season. That's enough about the quarterback battle. Let's run through the skill position room really quickly. Your top two rushers are also going to portal away. That's going to be the likes there of Braden Bennett, who is now with the Virginia Tech Hokies, 781 yards and 11 touchdowns last year. And then Christian Washington is in the portal there as well. He's going over now to the San Diego State Aztecs, might be the starting running back over there. So when you talk about guys that come in, UMass transfer Jalen John, set to be that lead rusher with a very wide variety of depth. Let's talk about Jalen John. 583 yards and 5 touchdowns with the Minutemen last season, 5.3 yards per carry. Think he'll be pretty good over here in Conway. And the rest of the depth, you're going to have a returner in Javin Simpkins, although he's young, a redshirt sophomore. You have a transfer in Demarion Petit, who's a transfer junior, and then a redshirt senior Matt Pack, who is going to round out this running back room. So the depth behind Jalen John could be a little bit of a question as to who gets the most playing time, but no question in my mind that Jalen John will be that lead rusher for the team this year. Your top two receivers from last year are returning, so some really good returning pieces. Bryson Graves is back, as well as the guy that you saw on the thumbnail screen over here. A really dynamic weapon that I think can have a monster season if everything fits well, and that's Jamison Tucker. 579 yards and 6 touchdowns last season. I know his production does not scream anything extraordinary, but I think given the chance, I think he's going to end up being a pretty good player if he gets the football thrown his way a lot, which he should because he's pretty good. The rest of the room, however, is going to look very different. So you're probably going to see the likes of Bryson Graves play a little bit of a secondary role in this wide receiver room. Jamison Tucker is going to be that starter, that primary guy, but you have two transfers coming in Malcolm Gilly coming over from Ball State and Colton Hinton coming over from Furman that are probably going to be starting pieces for you. Hinton, a very good wide receiver over with the Paladins there at Furman. And then for Malcolm Gilly, he's again over from Ball State, 267 yards and a pair of touchdowns for him last year. Not too bad, and is a really high upside piece compared to the talent that you do have in this wide receiver room. Now, you do also have a lot of experience coming back. A name that I will butcher is Malik Mega. He returns, as well as Cameron Wright. Those are both really experienced players. According to ourlads.com, those two transfers are slotting into starting roles, but I think you have a pretty solid two deep here in the wide receiver room. When you extend that into the tight end room, you do lose your lead tight end, Kendall Carr. Okay, that's a bummer, but Kang Barong is going to be coming back. Yes, that is how you spell the name. He's going to be the new starter with some pretty familiar depth, not a lot of transfers coming in behind him. As far as the offensive line, new pieces are going to be sliding in to replace, I think, 2, maybe 3 starters on the offensive line. And honestly, really good offensive line last year. 15 sacks allowed, that was it, and allowed the rushing attack to get 4.6 yards per carry. Trench play offensively, I think, going to be a big strength of Coastal Carolina this year. But there are a lot of questions, right? Who fits in at the quarterback position, and how good is he going to be? What of this running back room? If Jalen John isn't the answer, then who steps up for a really talented piece that leaves in Braden Bennett? As far as your receiver room, I really don't have a lot of qualms about that. I think your wide receiver room is going to be pretty good this year. It's up to the quarterback to get the football to him, that offensive line to be as good as it was last year, and we'll see who emerges in the running back room. Defensive coordinator is Jeremiah Johnson, as pieces are going to have to fill in to help show some overall improvement in 2025. It was a defense that, for the most part, really did struggle last year. Did put up some solid numbers in a few categories. It did force 12 turnovers last year, including 2 pick sixes and nearly 30 sacks. Hey, those are some pretty good numbers. However, speaking of the sack production, you're going to lose your top 2 producers in tackles for loss by getting the quarterback down. What a weird way to say sack. You're going to lose your top 2 sack producers from last season, as Clev Lubin and Diamante Diggs are both transferring off to ACC programs. One to Louisville, one to Florida State, and I believe it's Lubin to the Cardinals and Diggs to the Seminoles. Although, if I'm wrong, just flip the two, and that is correct. For the likes of Lubin, 9.5 sacks last year and 5 sacks for Diggs, both of them really important pieces on the defensive front. Lubin was a top 10 tackler. So Sawyer, Gorham, Welch. That's going to be the main guy to watch at the nose tackle position in this defensive line room. 32 tackles, did not have a sack last year, but that definitely can improve this upcoming season. What's more is when you look at the talent coming in around him through the transfer portal, you're going to have Noah Arinze, who is over from New Mexico State, where he had 2.5 sacks with the team in Las Cruces last year. And then you're also going to be transferring a piece on the defensive interior at your D tackle position in Amari Notice, who is a pretty darn good defensive lineman over at Idaho. So there you go. You're going to get that guy coming in there as well. 6'3", 285, really nice big body on that defensive line, as well as some other returners and transfers, albeit the rest of the room you could say is fairly young. However, Travis Nesbitt is coming back, and Jordan Mack is entering that edge rushing role. They do have a bandit position there as well, sort of your combination linebacker and defensive lineman. I've saved it for the linebacking table because when you take a look at this linebacking room, yes, you lose some really, really good pieces. I believe most notably, you're going to lose a guy by the name of Barry Brown, who was the top 4 tackler for you, had 59 tackles a season ago. However, your leading tackler overall in Shane Bruce does come back, 75 tackles, and did get the paws up and pick off a pass last year as well. You also have a lot of talent returning around him. Wyatt Gideon is a massive returning piece for them. And then that bandit position is Ibrahim Diawara. I think he's going to be a really good piece. And look, you still get some transfers in. Dante Lunan, Javen Augustus, I think going to prove to be some good solid pieces. Trey Brown returns to be in that 2 deep there as well. And I think it's still going to end up being a solid linebacking room. Now, this is a team that can play multiple defense. They like to run the 4-2-5. They can run the 3-3-5, etc., etc. That's why they do have the bandit position there. But overall, front 7, look, you got to find guys that are going to replace the sack leaders, right? Half of your sack production is gone with Lubin and Diggs. So you got to find guys to fill in that role. But I think the linebacking unit's going to be pretty solid, and let's see what the defensive line can fit in. As far as your defensive back room, a majority of your defensive back pieces, led by stud corner Miles McDoom, are going to be gone. 3 interceptions led the team, 10 passes defended led the team, and I believe a top 10 tackler for the team as well. 36 tackles for McDoom last year, and a ton of other guys, especially in the safety room, are going to see the exit. Now, you do get one really nice piece back, also with 36 tackles last year, and that was Zamarion Gordon. Hopefully I'm saying that first name right. You're going to see him coming back. He will be back into the safety room. But other than that, man, it's going to be transfers and portal pieces that are going to make up this secondary unit. Miles Muyung is going to be into play corner. He's a Miami transfer, and opposite of him is Lionel Whitaker over from Maryland, had 18 tackles in 2023. What's more, Dante Thomas comes in to be your free safety. Jeffrey Ugochukwu is going to be coming over from Vandy, 23 tackles in 2023, to play the nickelback position. So you do get a nice mix of transfers coming in here. Some good returners are going to await in the wings, such as Dre Pinkney. However, when I take a look at the majority of this defensive back room, it really is just a question of how well the transfers fit. Your punter returns and Emile Sabafundi. I definitely butchered that name. You can roast me for it in the comments. I'll take it. And your kicker is going to be a new one this year, Hayden Tessier, or Tessier, however he prefers to have it pronounced. I shouldn't say how he prefers, it's how it should be pronounced. You're going to see him coming in as the kicker, because kickers are people too. So overall, when I look at this team, returning production number offensively, I really do think is pretty darn good. Now, you do have to see some things fit into the quarterback position. Okay, I think one of those two guys are going to work, because if one doesn't, then you have the other right there. Both are very nice, serviceable options, and I think both are going to get playing time this year. Overall, though, let's see that standard take a step up this year for the Chanticleer team. And as you take a look at the Chanticleer football schedule, we take a look down here at the FanDuel odds. Not me telling you to go place your money, and these odds are current as of recording this video. Please do what you want with your money. I'm not one to give you betting advice, but this does provide some nice good context to how good the odds makers think Coastal Carolina is going to be this upcoming season. And they think overall pretty darn solid. They're hovering right around that 5 to 6 win total. 5.5 is that number. Now, you do have fairly longer odds to reach the conference championship, even win the conference, and get into the college football playoff. It's going to take a lot of things working together, and you're going to have to win some really big non-conference games. You have two massive road games against Power 4 schools, and you have a game at home against a team that I think is going to be really good. So let's start with one of those Power 4 schools. It is the likes of the University of Virginia. UVA, it just feels like that this is a team that should take that next step. They should take that next step. When are they going to take that next step? It is all a matter of, is this the year for Virginia to take that next step under Tony Elliott, get into a bowl game? They very well could. I don't know if Tony Elliott is the guy, but I do see Virginia taking a nice step up on the talent perspective this year. You got Chandler Morris coming in to be your quarterback, some really good returning pieces such as Trell Harris back in this wide receiver room, and some solid defensive pieces. I think Virginia is going to be fairly competitive in the ACC this year, and I do think while Coastal Carolina gets a lot of their things figured out, I think Virginia beats them and their talent level a little bit higher. However, you get a home game against an FCS opponent in Charleston Southern. I do not think that Coastal Carolina is going to have much of a gripe there in that one. And here's the game I'm talking about against a group of 5 team that can prove to be really good this year, because East Carolina is a team that you have to watch out for. Now, I don't know what I would rather see here, right? 2 teams from the Carolinas going at it, 2 teams that can end up being pretty solid. I do like both of these teams, but I like East Carolina more. I like Caton Hauser a little bit more. I like some of these wide receiver pieces a little bit more. I especially like this defense, especially in that defensive front 7, a lot more than what Coastal Carolina has got. And if East Carolina and the Pirates put everything together, man, the American better watch out, because East Carolina can be that team that is the dark horse and the sneaky contender in the American Conference. I think East Carolina going to be pretty good this year. Now, again, it depends on how some of the transfers in the back end, in the secondary fit, some pieces on the offensive line. Sure, okay. I do think East Carolina is going to get those pieces to fit, and I think they're going to be a pretty solid team. Then you start out conference play, your last non-conference game. I mean, I'm sure you see it on the schedule already, and you probably know what I'm going to say about it. But South Alabama is coming up next, and it is a road game. When you look across to the other division, South Alabama is going to be one of the better teams that you're going to see in that division, and they absolutely are in the running to get into the Sun Belt Conference Championship game. I'm one to think that South Alabama going to be a pretty darn solid side this year. Zach Pyron coming into really be his first time being a full-fledged starting quarterback, but I think he's got a lot of talent and can see some really good success. You do have Kentrell Bullock coming back. I think a guy that can be one of the best running backs in the Sun Belt this year. When Devin Voisin is going healthy at 100%, that's a really dangerous wide receiver weapon. And I think they did well in the transfers, in the transfer portal, especially in that defensive back end. South Alabama is a loss for Coastal Carolina. So you're not starting off your season to the best of your ability. And what's more is you get this game right here against Old Dominion that I think can also give you trouble. Now, Old Dominion last year under Ricky Rain made some massive strides, and they very well could do so again this year. I think that's probably one of the more slept-on group of 5 teams in the country this year, based off of what they did last year. And yes, I know there's a lot of talent that is going to be gone. You're going to have a new quarterback, some new defensive pieces, so on and so forth. I still like what Old Dominion has got, and I think Ricky Rain coaches this team exceptionally well. I think Old Dominion is a bowl game team. However, there are going to be some moments here where Old Dominion is going to go up against a team with overall, I think, more experience. That's what you see here out of Coastal Carolina, and Old Dominion is going to pay for it. I think Old Dominion loses this game. Coastal Carolina gets a massive win on the road, and I think they're really going to look at that one and need that win too, especially if their first 3 games go the way I'm predicting. They're going to need that big bounce-back performance, and I think they get it here against the Old Dominion Monarchs, and they cap the first half of the season off with a pretty simple win against ULM. Now, the Warhawks have got some pieces that I think will give anybody trouble this season. However, overall, do I expect ULM to be much of something? No. Maybe a little bit of a step up from where they were last year, but the Warhawks really do not have a lot of portal pieces coming in, if any at all. Bryant Vincent, I think, is really going to take some time to get enveloped in this team. And while they got some good returning pieces, I just don't see ULM stacking up talent-wise to what some of the other teams, including Coastal Carolina, have in the Sun Belt. So, bam, you're through the first half of the schedule. You have a big road win already under your belt, and you're feeling confident going on the road in Boone to play App State, and then you're going to crumble there. I just think Boone is a really tough place to play, and even though App State does lose Joey Aguilar and some other good wide receiver pieces, or I say Joey Aguilar at quarterback and some good wide receiver pieces, you get A.J. Swan coming in, a guy that I think, hey, is going to be pretty serviceable. Even if he doesn't work out, you have J.J. Cole behind him. They both are former Power 4 guys. Kanye Roberts comes back at the running back position. I really do like what he has got going. Dalton Stroman's going to be joined by a lot of transfers, including Jaden Barnes, who I really like in that wide receiver room. And then you take a look at the defensive side, and hey, I think they do really well in the transfer portal. They are under new management in Dowell Loggins, who I think is going to see App State have a pretty solid season this year. Marshall, though, I think that's a team that I think is really confusing to figure out because they lost everybody. They have the worst returning production in college football. Their old head coach, Charles Huff, took the job over with Southern Miss. Why? We'll never know. And this being a weekday game where Coastal Carolina gets it at home on an extra week of rest, and it's during the week, I definitely believe that this is a Marshall team that overall is just really going to struggle this year. They got a lot of pieces that they're trying to fit in for, and a lot of things that I think just quite frankly need to go their way. Some things may, but I don't think most will, especially for a head coach that's going to see his first head coaching position. Marshall falls here to Coastal Carolina as the Chanticleers work their way back to 500, and for the first time all season, they will reach above 500 when they get this win against Georgia State. I don't think the Panthers are going to be that great of a team this season and could be at the bottom of the Sun Belt Conference. So now, I mean, really simple, right? You just got to win one more game and you're in the postseason. Oh. You take a look at the three opponents that are up next, and guys, I just don't think the Chanticleers are going to have much luck with any three of them. You probably already know what I'm going to say about the middle one, but let me tell you about Georgia Southern. Coached by Clay Helton, I still think this team is going to be really good this season. Georgia Southern gets J.C. French back. O.J. Arnold as a senior running back returns. Josh Dallas, Dalen Cobb, two really good wide receiver pieces that will be taking that next step up and be amazing weapons for J.C. French this year, as well as some good portal pieces. The offense is set to be really dynamic. So already there, I think they got Coastal Carolina beat because I got a lot of questions about how this defensive unit is going to come together. Then when you throw in the defense for Georgia Southern and you consider what Coastal Carolina is going to want to do offensively this year, I think Georgia Southern has the dogs up front to be able to slow Coastal Carolina's run game down, and especially in that secondary with guys like Tracy Hill, Chance Gamble, and a transfer in Antonio White. I think they're going to lock down this Chanticleer passing attack, and Georgia Southern gets that win. You probably already know what I'm going to say about South Carolina, but Lenora Sellers, one of the most explosive playmakers in the entire country. Playmakers all over the field, including a speedy, really good wide receiver in Nick Harbor. Defense, there can be some improvement made, but South Carolina, one of those sleeper teams, not only in the SEC, but in the entire country. Lofty expectations there for South Carolina this season. We'll see if they can deliver. They, at very least, will beat Coastal Carolina this season. And it all comes down to this. You get the game against James Madison at home with a full week of preparation in order to get to a bowl game. Coastal Carolina is going to play well, and they're going to play desperate. I think they make this one close, but James Madison is really, really talented, guys. If there's a team up there to compete with Boise State for that G5 spot, well, maybe you could throw in Tulane or Navy or maybe even UNLV. Sure. Well, Liberty, sure. I think James Madison is as good as any competition for Boise State in that G5 running this year. They had their starting quarterback return and they still were hungry and said, nah, I'm not done. And they added some really good pieces coming in through the transfer portal. I'm trying to tell you them now. Matthew Sluka, Camden Coleman to a pair with Alonzo Barnett. Some good returners in the running back room, wide receiver room, all new. But hey, it's a really good portal group. Defensively, I think they do well in the portal and they get some good returners. Bob Chesney has this team trending in a tremendous direction. I think James Madison's going to be really, really good this season. Maybe not as good as they were under Signetti, but still really good. And ultimately, Coastal Carolina falls short of that bowl game spot. That pivot game for me, I mean, you could say James Madison, but I think it'd take a lot to win it. It's that week 3 matchup right there against East Carolina. You'll win that one. I really like your chances to get into a bowl game. You lose that one, you're going to have to win a really tricky one on the road, and I already have you doing so on the road against Old Dominion, but you're going to have to pull out a win in a game that you probably shouldn't win, quote unquote. I still like this Coastal Carolina team overall. I think they're going to battle. I think they're going to be solid, just not enough for me based on the schedule to get into the postseason. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.